In President Andrew Jackson's quest for westward expansion, he adopted a harsh policy toward Indians that reflected American attitudes at the time. Jackson believed in manifest destiny, represented in this 19th century painting, the concept that Americans were destined to expand west to the Pacific Ocean.
The early people who had used up their farmland for the most part in the East Coast, along the southern region as well, and were looking for new lands to farm.
But Americans looking for new fertile land often clashed with Indians unwilling to leave without a fight, either in combat or in court. The Cherokees actually won a Supreme Court case over land in Georgia, but Jackson ignored the decision.
Jackson was an Indian fighter from way back in the War of 1812 and after. He had led campaigns to destroy the Creek Indians in the South.
Determined to move Indians out of the way, he pressed Congress to pass the Indian Removal Act in 1830. It ordered what were known as the 5 civilized tribes, the Cherokees, Creeks, Choctaws, the Chickasaws, the Seminoles, to move to reservations in Oklahoma.
They were called civilized tribes because they had actually done what people like Jefferson and others had said Indians needed to do to be accepted. They had adopted white ways. They had taken up family farming. But the white man didn't care about that. They wanted that land, and they wanted Indians pushed out west of the Mississippi.
Between 1830 and 1838, thousands of Indians died on the trek to reservations. The journey became known as the Trail of Tears. Those who fought back, like the Sauk tribe led by Chief Black Hawk, were crushed by federal troops. By 1840, most of the eastern Indians were driven onto western reservations, which kept them in and the white population out.
Amid increasing pressures by European settlers in the southeast United States to remove Native Americans from lands east of the Mississippi, President Andrew Jackson gained congressional passage of the Indian Removal Act in 1830, which kicked off a series of forced relocations of Native Americans that collectively became known as the Trail of Tears. First came the removal of the Choctaw people in 1831. Followed by the Seminoles in 1832, the Creeks in 1834, the Chickasaws in 1837, and the Cherokee Nation in 1838. Of the 16,543 Cherokees that were relocated in 38, scholars now believe that approximately 2,000 to 8,000 perished along their route into modern-day Oklahoma. Known collectively as the 5 civilized tribes, all told, some 60,000 Native Americans and black slaves that lived among the tribes were forced to relocate out of the American Southeast, causing many to die from exposure, disease, and starvation along the 2,200 miles of land and sea routes established by the federal government. While the U.S. government at first acknowledged that 400 Native Americans had perished during these forced marches, scholars soon revised that number upwards to 4,000. Although many historians today suggest that the Cherokee migration alone killed 1/4 to 1/3 of her people when they were forced to march 10 miles a day in knee-deep snow. By 1837, some 46,000 Native Americans had been removed from their homelands, opening up 25 million acres for resettlement by predominantly European immigrants. People at the time of the Trail of Tears migrations knew what the federal government was doing was wrong, maybe even illegal in light of previously signed treaties with the southeastern Indians. Yet under the uniquely American belief in manifest destiny and American exceptionalism, most white Americans looked away in the name of progress, expansion, and a greed-inspired thirst for land ownership.